Hello everyone and welcome to my presentation. First of all, I would like to thank our honorable teacher for giving me this lovely opportunity to present something in front of you all. Let me introduce myself. My name is MD Nazim Uddin and my ID is 201020029. The topic that I'm going to discuss right now is the background of tradition and the individual talent. Tradition and the Individual Talent is an essay written by poet and literary critic T.S. Eliot in 1990. The essay was first published in The Egoist in 1990 and later on the Eliot's first book of criticism, The Sacred Wood, was published in 1920. While Eliot is most often known for his poetry, he has contributed to the field of literary criticism. In this dual role, he acted as a cultural critic, which was compared to Sir Philip Sidney and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Tradition and the Individual Talent is one of the more well-known works that Eliot produced in his critic period. Eliot inspired and informed the movement of neo-criticism. This is somewhat ironic since he later criticized their intensely detailed analysis of texts as unnecessarily tedious. Yet he does share with them the same focus on the aesthetic and stylistic of the quality of the poetry. The neo critics resemble Eliot in their close analysis of particular passages and poems. So that's all from my part. I have discussed the things, the informations that is included and detailed about the background. Thank you very much.
Greetings, this is Fairooz Saiyara, undergraduate student at the Department of English, Green University of Bangladesh. In this presentation, I am going to address tradition and the individual talent paradox in T.S. Eliot's essay. Tradition and the Individual Talent is a remarkable prose of T.S. Eliot where he defends his influential conception of the relationship between a poet and the preceding literary traditions. This is one of the central paradoxes of Eliot's writing, that in order to move forward, it often looks to the past even more directly and more pointedly than previous critics had. The argument he puts in this essay is perhaps surprising given that modernist association with radical departures from artistic norms and traditions. As a modernist, Eliot might be expected to reject the great canon or tradition of poetry that had gone before him. However, this theory of tradition foregrounds how important older writers are to contemporary writers. The terms tradition and the individual talent seem contradictory to the naked eye, but when investigated from Eliot's point of view, they prove to be complementary. According to Eliot and most critics, tradition is artists who are dead and past the test of time. For example, Shakespeare, Milton, Shelley are tradition. On the other hand, an individual talent is someone who is alive and new. For instance, when Browning was alive, he was an individual talent. Eliot suggests that an individual talent must earn their talent by labor, and every human being has a talent to be flourished through labor. Before being a writer, there must be a reader first. He insists that a poet must develop or procure the consciousness of the past and that they should continue to develop this consciousness throughout their career. Eliot is certain that the progress of an artist is a continual self-sacrifice, a continual extinction of personality, and coins the term as depersonalization. From a reader's point of view, he says that when the readers praise a poet, as readers, we pretend to find what is individual, what is the peculiar essence of that person. We dwell with we dwell with satisfaction upon the poet's difference from their predecessors, especially their immediate predecessors. We endeavor to find something that we can isolate in order to enjoy. On the contrary, Eliot thinks that if we examine a poet without this prejudice, we shall often find that not only the best but the most individual parts of their work may be those in which the dead poets or ancestors assert their immortality most vigorously. For example, when Rabindranath Tagore was an individual talent, his philosophy was influenced by the traditional poets including Shakespeare, Goethe, Kalidas, Lalon and Hafiz. The more he read them, the more his writings reflected them. Rabi Tagore became great because the greatness of his predecessors coupled in his writings. Another example comes to my mind that specifies an individual talent's role in the evolution of world poetry. We have seen a relay race, an event where a team of 4 athletes run equally on a predetermined distance and in a sprint race, each passing a baton to the next person to continue the race. The responsibility of an individual talent is quite similar, according to Eliot. They are to pass on what they got from their predecessors to their successors. Therefore, in the process, an individual talent becomes a tradition by leaving behind their legacy. In brief, initially tradition and the individual talent seem poles apart, but according to Eliot, no talent is unintimidated from their tradition. Every individual talent is somehow influenced by tradition. As they say, an apple doesn't fall far from its tree. No poet, no artist of any art has their complete meaning alone. Their significance and appreciation is actually the appreciation of his or her relation to the dead poets and artists. We cannot value an individual talent alone, rather we must set them for contrast and comparison among the dead. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. My name is Mamun Miah and I'm from 201 Beach and my ID is 2019230002. Well, my topic is the impartial theory of poetry. The theory of impartial poetry. Well, let me start. Well, in the tradition of the individual talent, Eliot elaborates at length his impartial theory of poetry, and there, that speaks of an organic view of the literature, and concepts literature as a living whole of all that has been written in that person, that is all being written now. And a poem is an organic, an organism with a life of its own. And well, and then this theory has 2 different aspects. First, the relation of the poem to other poems by the authors, and second one is the relation of the poem to its author. And then, well, the personality of the poet is transferred during the creative process into something in universal and impartial, impersonal. Well, the creation of work of art is not an outpouring of personality, but is rather the concentration on the work to be done to which the other person surrenders. Actually, his whole personality, intelligence, imagination and sensibility is transfused into the whole work of art. The perfect artist, if we can say completely separate to him, will be the man who suffers and the mind that creates. Well, then I just say about the emotion and personality. Raw materials for this, for puberty. Personal and subjective becomes impartial and objects, and mind catalyst and the formation of the compound poetry. Development of the personality continues in a great creative artist. Well, Eliot believe in 2 kinds of impartiality, such as it is achieved by great creative artists like Shakespeare, whom matures as a whole man, and in whom the development of his personality is an exciting in youth, is an in old age, and is to it's actually found in leisure artists like Yeats, in whom there is a slow but continuous development of the personality, which is not exciting in youth as in old age. And last in this formation of his theory of impartiality in arts, Eliot actually speaks about the role of a great poet who transmutes his personal emotions or experiences into universal felt artistic experience that have universal appeal. For Eliot, the poet and the man are two separate and distinct being within altogether distinctive and different roles. The notion of impartiality in art for him is poetry is not a turning loose of emotion, but an escape from emotion. It is not the expression of personality, but an escape from the personality. And its present is a continuation of the past and has germs of future in it. And writer belongs to the living stream of the tradition, in endeavors to the in-reach of the stream through his individual contribution. And then tradition should be constantly enriched by the individual talent, and on the other hand, individual should constantly enrich itself through the overflowing stream of tradition. Emotions are responses of the poet's mind of external and internal stimuli, and which furnish him with the most important raw materials, and that he transmutes the imaginatively for purpose of his art. And feeling are responses of the poet's mind, not to be external or internal stimuli, but to a work of art. Emotions have roots of the personal experience of the poet. Feelings are occasioned by the mere study of literature. That's all. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi.
Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum. This is Sagarika Yasmin. My bearing code is 2019-20024. Today I am going to present objective correlative from the text Tradition and Individual Talent by T.S. Eliot. It is an established fact that T.S. Eliot was a multifaceted personality who imparted a new depth and gravity to literary criticism. Although his reputation chiefly rests upon his poetry, but without any shade of doubt, his contribution is the sphere of criticism cannot be understatement. The essay "Traditional and the Individual Talent" is an attack on the certain critical views in romantic, particularly up on the idea that poem is primarily an expression of the personality of the poet. According to T.S. Eliot, without the sense of tradition, an artist can never be a good artist. The individual talent is the capability of poet on the retouch and recolor the presentness of the past. No artist or no poet of any art has his real value of alone. If we want to evaluate him, we must set him among the dead poet. This brings Eliot to a consideration of the value and significance of tradition. Tradition does not mean a blind adherence to the ways of the previousness, generation to generation or generationless. This would be more selfish imitation, a mere repetition of what has already been achieved, and novelty is better than repetition. So tradition in the sense of passive repetition is to the discouraged. For Eliot, tradition is a matter of much wider significance. Tradition in the true sense of the term cannot be inherited. It can only be it can only be obtained by hard labor. This hard labor this labor is the knowledge of past writer. So it is the critical labor of saving the good from the bad, and the knowing what is good and useful. Tradition can be obtained only by those who have the historical sense. The historical sense involve a involve a perception not only of the pastness of the past, but also of its presence. So on who has the historical sense feels that the whole of the literature, the Europe from the Homer down to the own day, including the literature of his own country, form of the continuous literature tradition. He realized that the past exists in the parents, and that the past and the present from one simulatory order. I'm trying to emphasize on Eliot's convocation of the tradition, where the personality of pure poetry is evidence of the object correlation paradism. So this suggestion too that the honest criticism and sensitivity appreciation of essentially poetry are directed not at the poet but upon his poetry. That is the all of my presentation. Thanks for your patience. Thank you.